It is Monday, October 27th, and unless you are the $54 million man, I expect you'll stay with us for the next hour to digest some college football talk as Notre Dame prepares for former rival, current rival Boston College this Saturday. First, though, it's safe to say that recently fired head coach Brian Kelly, former Notre Dame head coach, will not be having a statue erected of him in Baton Rouge either anytime soon. Fired Sunday after a 34-14 mark with the Tigers. I'm Tim O'Malley, joined by Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, John Bryce of Football Scoop. And Tim, I read your editorial this morning. John, we read your Football Scoop report last night. So let's start there. How it happened with Brian Kelly, if he was going to the meeting with an inkling that he would be fired, or if it just all devolved so much during said meeting.
No, I think he had a pretty good idea that it was trending that direction. I know somebody had talked with him yesterday and said, "Oh, the bullet gets you is the one you never see coming." And I think once he knew that high levels of state government were get involved, that the bullet was coming, so to speak. So that's kind of how I read that. I think it had been trending that direction. There just hadn't been a lot of unity. There had been ample dysfunction in the program. And it just wasn't a natural fit, and none of the buttons that Brian Kelly pushed, none of the adjustments that were made ended up being good fits. He struggled a bit in finding his offensive coordinator as replacement to Mike Denbrock. That really stung him to the core when Denbrock left for Notre Dame 2 years ago after leading Jaden Daniels to the Heisman Trophy. And I think honestly, when you do the retrospective, my colleague at Football Scoop, Zach Barnett, does these coaching autopsies. I think the coaching autopsy for Brian Kelly in Death Valley really begins with being put on life support after losing Mike Denbrock.
Point, I mean, he he played the wrong opponent this past weekend because
That's
that's
true
a
too. Yeah.
that's a really good football team. But look, LSU was playing down to the level of their competition when it wasn't somebody as good as Texas A&M, and the offense is just abysmal. They couldn't run the football. The defense, which looked absolutely outstanding at the beginning of the year, has been eroded a little bit too. So look, as we always talk about, there's no reason to feel bad for Brian Kelly. He got what he wanted. And I just want to say this, like there's still, could he go here? Could he go there? He will only go to a major program, a playoff level program, and those programs aren't going to pay him now.
Right.
He's not going to go to Michigan State. He's not going to go to some of the lesser schools that aren't playoff contenders. So his career is over. And again, let's make this clear too. He did not leave Notre Dame so he could win a national title at LSU. He left Notre Dame because LSU was willing to pay him, and he knew it would be his last job. It would be the only last payday that he would need. Maybe he thought that LSU had a better chance to be a national title contender. But if Notre Dame had offered him a long-term deal extension, he probably would have taken that, but Notre Dame didn't. And so poor Brian Kelly now, let's see, 72 months left on his contract, $54 million. He'll be making about $750,000 every month.
I think
Yeah.
JB is, you were the first to say JB,
If
best
the-
job in
if it-
college, best
yeah.
job in the world.
Give
Fired head
us
football coach.
give us the are there some stipulations there, John?
I think there will be some mediation there that will get Brian Kelly a lump sum of money sooner rather than later, rather than waiting for him to be paid out. A wise man once said, maybe back in August, there's no crying from the yacht. So, oh wait, Brian Kelly said that. So, wisdom subjective there. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he coaches again. I think we're going to see Brian Kelly three different places: the golf course, the lake, and the television studio. And we'll see which TV studio brings him in. But I think he's already indicated a willingness to do that. I think that he knew the writing was on the wall in recent weeks. It just turned really poorly in a hurry. My boss, the owner of Football Scoop, lives in Baton Rouge. He said the tide really turned. Even before they lost to Vanderbilt, he got a strong sense in the community there in Baton Rouge that there was absolute disgust that LSU found itself as an underdog to Vanderbilt. Then it went and actually lost the game
Yeah,
to
that's fair.
Vanderbilt, and that really really exacerbated matters. Another thing that my boss was told is that LSU went out and maybe spent more than $15 million on its offensive line this year, and they're, I think, dead last in the SEC in rushing. They're one of the worst rushing teams in the country. The Joe Sloan experiment has been a disaster running the offense. He's now been relieved of his duties as well. So you got Frank Wilson as the interim. He's a former failed head coach at UTSA. Jeff Traylor replaced him and has turned UTSA into a really fine mid-major program. But Frank Wilson is much beloved in the state of Louisiana. He's a native. He runs deep there. We'll see if he can try to hold this season together a little bit for the Tigers down the stretch. But that's the sum of it. I don't think Brian Kelly ever coaches again. I think that this was a final massive payday for him that also might have been a pathway to a national championship or a playoff appearance if you were 10-2. And obviously it's not turned out that way. But again, he now has the best job in America, fired former SEC football coach.
Tim, I addressed the whole, John, I addressed the whole TV thing, and I get it because he has the eloquence to do it. He doesn't have the authenticity, however, to do it. And I don't think that he would. I mean,
I think he would have been really good at it if he retired in 2021 from Notre Dame. And
right, exactly. But I mean, I find it really hard to believe that he would really be committed to that. Was he going to be studying games across the country each week? No. I mean, I think
not in the summer, Tim, and not during recruiting season. It would
he's meshed well. He's formed a strong love-hate relationship with Paul Feinbaum the past couple of years on the SEC network. As you noted, TP, he has the eloquence, and he likes to talk and pontificate. And people I know that worked with him for quite a while at Notre Dame indicated in recent weeks that they thought that the TV chair would be an avenue for him to get his football fix here when it all ended at LSU.
I think only Jack Freeman got he wouldn't be studying during recruiting season story or joke there. But well done, Jack. I brought up 2021 because the 2021 cycle is, of course, where Marcus Freeman replaced Brian Kelly. Here's some names, guys, and I'm trying to put them, and I've let JB and Priester, you guys tell me if I'm going out of order. You have Freeman and Lanning hired in that cycle, but also Rhett Lashley, because he had a lot harder job at SMU than Marcus Freeman and Dan Lanning. Mike Elko to Duke from A&M as a defensive coordinator, and then John Summerall from Troy to Tulane. Done a heck of a job. Riley and Venables were the big names, along with Freeman?
Billy Napier.
And Billy Napier, yeah. And then I'm getting to the fired guys, Kelly and Billy Napier, but also Tony Elliott was also part of that, and he's kind of resuscitated. It took a little while, but he's resuscitated his career.
Speaking of Troy, I believe Troy's 6-2 now under Jared Parker.
The Troy Trojans are bowl eligible.
Nice.
Great year. They're in conference contention. They're 6-2. And let's not forget they led Clemson 16-0 early in the season before Clemson found a way to win that game, I think 27-16. So a real strong year for Jared Parker and Caleb Carbine and Kevin Reener and all those guys that used to be a part of the early foundation here of Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame won the 2021 coaching carousel cycle with Oregon and SMU doing a heck of a job as well. And that's how it's played out so far. And Oregon, SMU, and Notre Dame can all have a say in changing that narrative in the next SMU's back in it. To me, that's kind of crazy. In the next few months. We did spend 30 minutes with Marcus Freeman today. It was not an off week, as Tim Priester pointed out in our Irish Illustrated instant analysis, but it was a bye week where you get a lot of stuff done. And that included Navy work, which they have always done. I think throughout the year, really, they do quite a bit of Navy work with the scout team, not with, of course, with the varsity, but they got some Navy work in, and also some self-scouting. And Priester, we talked about this briefly. I was interested because Freeman, I think, took a lot of heat, and I did not take him at face value when he said in August the most improved unit is the defensive tackles, and then they were not the most improved unit, quite obviously, but they are arguably the most improved unit since we thought they started poorly, when we thought they would start a little better, listening to the head coach's words.
Well, Jason Onye's performance against USC was, when you add up the opponent, the importance of it, and his productivity, he was really, really good, and he continues to trend up. They need him to continue to trend up because there'll be no Gabe Rubio this week, next week, or the week after. Maybe at the very end of the regular season when you probably don't really need them anyway. So they can probably be, you need him against Pittsburgh, but he's unlikely to be available for that. So, yeah, Jason Onye, big step forward. Donovan Heinisch, I thought, played extremely well the last couple weeks.
Dawson played well.
Dawson absolutely did. It's starting to come around, and it's like, we mentioned it in instant analysis on the offensive line. There are more, the holes are bigger for the running backs. It's because that group is meshing together and has had more reps together, and it's something similar is happening along the defensive line. Boston College is one of the worst running teams in the country, although they do have, they got a couple of running backs that are capable. But yeah, it's coming around. You needed it a little bit more when you were playing, Texas A&M and Miami to open the season. Can't do much about that, but it's coming around. And all this talk that we hear nationally about, you're hearing a lot of national people saying that Notre Dame, if they run the table, they absolutely belong in the playoffs. I think it's coming to fruition. What we saw, what we anticipated in the preseason is all starting to come to light for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and the Irish run defense barely giving up 3 yards a carry at this point in time after struggling, as you noted, a little bit early in the season. Only giving up 6 rush touchdowns on the season through 7 games. That's really admirable work as well. They've found a rotation that they like. Jared Dawson has come on. I think he's playing as a nice complement to Onye having his best game last week. Dawson just has a nice activity about him. He's got a little bit of Donovan Heinisch in terms of athleticism, but a little bit more girth to him, and I think that's served him well.
Tim Priest, we're going to get into a little bit of Boston. Actually, let's do the injury report first because we have to serve a couple masters here where we put our injury report. I was thinking it was possible we would not see Jaden Greathouse listed as questionable, though it is possible they just brought the injury report from the last game to this game. I could see that being a situation because I'm sure Jaden Greathouse didn't get a lot of work last week. Jaden Greathouse was joined by Matt Jeffrey with a thigh injury, and Matt Jeffrey has become part of Notre Dame's short yardage and goal line package. Micah Gilbert remains on the list with what we believe is a broken hand, is listed as left hand. Jaden Greathouse still on there. Devonta Smith still on as questionable. 4 concussion guys, and this is why I say I think it could have something to do with the previous week's list. Logan Thomas, joined by Jordan Botello, Matty Augustin, and then I am missing one that I will get, so we don't have bad radio here. But
Will Black,
and Will Black, who he was on a previous list as well, and they're getting bare bones at offensive line. I mean, they really are. When you have a couple concussions and 3 guys out, you're starting to dip into it a little bit.
Yeah, really important. And you mentioned on instant analysis, Tim, that they're it's just like last year. I said that, you didn't say that, but it's just like last year. They're down to their top 9, or they're at their 9th offensive lineman, and they can't afford any more injuries there. The schedule could help them, handle that a little bit better, but they haven't had a lot of great luck along the offensive line. When I say luck, I mean fortune, because most offensive line injuries happen when the trees are falling in the timber, and you can't really do much about that. There's still some people that will blame the strength and conditioning coach for any type of injury, but offensive linemen tend to be injured by the felled trees, and that's what seems to be happening now.
Yeah, and a good note by O'Malley to note they're already on their 9th offensive lineman again, as we noted in instant analysis. Marcus Freeman professing a lot of confidence and belief in Sullivan Absher to get it done and go in there as the starter here moving forward for Billy Strouth, and we expect that to be Sullivan Absher starting for multiple games in lieu of Billy Strouth, who, as we noted, had a kneecap issue, not a knee ligament issue. So just continue to monitor that. Notre Dame has recruited the offensive line position as well as any group on its roster, along with linebackers, in my opinion, the last couple of years. And now we're seeing that depth and recruiting process once again being tested.
Before we go to break. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I know Strebig, who really showed himself in the spring. I know that they really liked him, but I saw him limping out of practice on
He
Tuesday
was
2 weeks ago,
and
13 days ago.
he was listed on Scout by
Right.
Marcus today. Marcus, you had that Scout team
Right.
list actually. Yeah, he was one of the guys that was listed as a Marcus Freeman was asked about the scout team. Of course, that's a big bye week theme, especially the second bye week of a season. You start looking at your younger players. And you also do that in December when you are not playing the playoffs. So those are hopefully a thing of the past there when you're looking at your guys for next year. But yeah, Streebig was listed on that. I think the scout team's a little deeper, a little more voluminous than anybody knows. You only get so many reps during the actual season for varsity. So I think when you hear surprise names on scout team like Sevillano and Mukum, I think they just bounce back and forth. They were mentioned as well today. I think
Yeah.
he's got to help out
You want to
sometimes.
hear the list?
Yeah, actually, I think people would like to hear the list if you have it. Start with Jerry Rulo, though.
Well, Jerry Rulo was the one that he couldn't quite remember, but he
Yes.
started with Blake Hebert, Owen Streebig, Max Anderson, who's been on the team for a few years, offensive lineman, Matt Jeffrey, Leo Scheidler. Is it Whitman? What's Whitman's
Yeah,
first name?
Alex Whitman. Yep.
Corny Southall's son.
Xavier.
All right.
Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier. Thank you. Tommy Paulus, Brennan Vernon, Sevillano, Reef, Burgess, Saka, Fisher, Dunn, Blair,
Yeah.
Ethan Long.
Some
Another
guys that
one
don't want to hear their name on that list too.
Yeah,
Eventually, as you
really.
start to go
Another
there.
another one here that I can't read my writing. Yeah, he named a bunch, and that's actually pretty good for Marcus Freeman because, like all of us that are aging, no, he isn't. Have a hard time remembering names sometimes, but he did a really good job.
Well, he's
of
only
listing all
39,
that.
as you know, from listening
Yeah,
to
you're
other
making
coaches
Yeah, but he's
around
sounding
the
like
country.
James Franklin there, TP. Man, about his age.
He's
Jeez.
almost that was the whole idea of saying that. But yeah, he's almost 40, man. He's almost reaching the 40s, and I think he's catching up to me a little bit. No, he was great getting his giving his list off top of his head, unless it was written down there and we didn't know it.
We didn't see it. Yeah. Before we go to break, I just want to bring this up because it won't come up in segment two now for sure. We'll save the BC talk for segment two because we do have a question about BC. Not shocking Brian Kelly gets fired because of James Franklin and Napier, but take yourself back a month. You would fall down if someone said Brian Kelly's getting fired mid-season when a team has a winning record. And they were both Penn State and LSU were 2 weeks removed from the top 10 when their coach got fired. I mean, Florida struggled the whole time.
Right.
James Franklin and Brian Kelly were both in the top 10 2 weeks before firing. This is a unique situation. Think
Right.
about that. Like you would never guess that would happen. But then when I found out he was getting fired Sunday, I was like, oh, of course. It took me 1 month to go from there's no way James Franklin's getting fired to, oh, of course Brian Kelly got fired. It's just a remarkable turn in college football.
Well, unless I mean the amount of money that is committed to fired coaches is just absolutely outrageous, and I mean, I'm sure athletic administrators would like to reel that in a little bit, but look, you're in competition with everybody else, and I don't know how that's reeled in. Other than JB, you mentioned that they may be able to whittle it down a little bit in some negotiations with Brian Kelly, but best job in America, man. Fired SEC coach. There's no doubt.
Irish fans, you remember the name Rocket Ismail, his speed, his signature, his impact on Notre Dame football. Now you can wear his legacy. Signature Pro Apparel's Rocket Ismail collection is officially open for pre-order, featuring premium polos and rugby shirts, each embroidered with Rocket's authentic signature and officially licensed by Notre Dame. Pre-orders will ship in mid-November, perfectly timed for holiday gifting. Visit signaturepro.com and use code IRISH20 to save 20% before pre-orders close on November 3rd. That's signaturepro.com. Legacy in every thread. We'll be back with segment 2, Burning Up the Boards. Welcome back to segment 2, Burning Up the Boards. Our first question is from Mother Tucker 1. What were the top priorities for Notre Dame, both offensively and defensively, during the bye week?
What do you think, JB?
Oh, I think that on the offensive side of the ball, I'll start there. The top two priorities were ratcheting up red zone efficiency, particularly as it comes to scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And then I would imagine it was also settling out the offensive line and getting Sullivan Absher acclimated to that starting role there, replacing the injured Billy Shrouth. So I think right there are your top two priorities. On offense, I think defensively, You're talking about continuing to grow your secondary and getting some guys in position to be able to spell a Christian Gray, as we talked about on
Yeah.
instant analysis, and continuing to just sort of sort out your defensive line rotation. So to me, it was offensive line and getting Sully settled in there and honing in on your red zone issues, and defensively, it was shoring up your D line and tweaking your secondary rotation.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about red zone offense and short yardage defense and those kind of things. I asked Marcus Freeman a couple questions today, didn't get make much headway with them, but to me, I thought that CJ Carr just needed a break. I don't think he's banged up in particular, but just if you think about everything that CJ Carr has gone
Makes
through, I
sense.
mean, from taking over having to win the job in the preseason, which was kind of an uncomfortable situation for him, and then the pressure of opening at Miami, et cetera, et cetera. Starting out great for 5 games, having a little bit of a bobble against NC State, and then probably playing his worst game so far this season against USC, and that's not a great defense. So, I mean, I thought he just kind of needed his battery recharged a little bit. The other thing is, like Notre Dame is, I actually didn't check, but I'm sure they're still near the bottom of the country in tackles for lost yardage, which means that they're not putting opposing offenses behind the chains. And I asked Marcus Freeman, can you do anything on the back end without compromising all the progress that you've made on the back end? I don't think I got really good responses out of either one of those. So I guess that makes neither question very good. But I thought those are a couple things that Notre Dame needed to tend to do with the extra time.
It's wide receiver would not be, that's just going to tie into what I think they hopefully worked with. Wide receiver would not be one because they obviously lost Shelton and did not have Micah Gilbert or Jaden Greathouse practicing very heavily. KK Smith, curious DNP coach's decision, I guess, because he's on the injury report against USC right after his breakout third quarter. I found that strange. No snaps. They were really pared down the rotation, though, for every position against USC. Um, Flanagan, not Cooper. James Flanagan was not on the scout team report, right, Tim? At all.
He was not mentioned. No.
Then I'm wondering if James Flanagan, obviously when Cooper Flanagan gets healthy, but we don't want Notre Dame can't have Cooper Flanagan play more than 3 more games, as we talked about, until the playoff. I'm wondering if James Flanagan could get into that where Matt Shelton and Micah Gilbert and well, Jordan Faison's great at it, but James Flanagan could be a goal line guy that comes in and leads. You're asking Matt Shelton and Micah Gilbert to do a
Are you?
tight end's job, and I mean, not Matt Shelton. I'm sorry,
I was
Matt
going to
Jeffrey
say,
to
are
do a
you
tight.
talking?
Yeah. Matt Shelton would have more trouble doing the job, but you're asking Matt
Yes.
Jeffrey to do a tight end's job in there, and you wonder if James Flanagan had anything this week where he could look at him and say, "All right, we can." Do you redshirt James Flanagan? I mean, a good tight end playing 5 years is just
He's still only played 1 game, right?
then you got to play him a couple games and play Cooper Flanagan those other 3 games and maintain the red shirt. But boy, great tight ends don't usually play those 5 years, right, JB?
Well, and even though the NCAA officially said they're not
Right.
going to vote
Not
on the
yet.
fifth year this year, it's still expected to be voted on in 2026, which means James Flanagan at some point in time is going to get 5 years to play five.
Wow.
So yeah,
You'd
I don't know
grandfather
too
him
many
in. Yeah,
coaches. Yeah, I just don't know too many coaches who are being real cognizant of a red shirt year for the younger guys right
for the
now.
freshman year. Yeah.
The 5 for 5, I think it's good for everybody. It's
It
good for us.
makes so much
It's
sense.
it's good for us, and
It's
like
good,
the
it's good for my
conversations,
scholarship chart. Yeah. It's
like
a
we're
lot
talking
easier.
about. Okay, when do you play? When do you
Yeah.
save them? You don't have to worry about that. I think it's a great rule. I was not aware, JB, that was actually coming up when you mentioned a couple weeks ago. I think it's a great rule.
Yeah, coaches believe it's real important for the integrity of the game where it's at right now.
I
In
agree.
situations like James Franklin getting fired 10 days after being a top five team, or Brian Kelly getting fired, barely midway to the season for LSU, and guys starting to. I've talked about it on this podcast before. I told you at the DFO meetings in May, the belief is there that guys are going to hold out for more money or contract stipulations or whatever. We haven't seen it yet. Are we going to see it this fall? There's a belief out there at the NCAA level that we will.
Our next question comes from Brokeback Brian. These guys are doing a good job on your questions these days. Let's assume regular attrition to the Notre Dame roster. at season's end. So perhaps the starting wide receiver leaves, some backups, same for offensive linemen, which was the case last year. Maybe a good defensive player and backups. What do you foresee Notre Dame hitting hard in the transfer portal? Is there any position totally free from portal acquisition needs other than maybe quarterback, because that always upsets the apple cart?
Well, I'm going to let JB answer that specific question. I want to go back to one that I did a lousy job of answering last Thursday. I was in full bye week mode when people were asking about. And,
You
and
were you were off. You were working, but you were off. That was the problem. There was
exactly. I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't in bye week, and I don't really have a great list here because when I went through the teams that they've already played, and I haven't studied the final four opponents real well yet, but I really like Quincy Rhodes from Arkansas. I would normally not name an Arkansas guy that might be a candidate, but since Notre Dame had a transfer tight end from Arkansas, Quincy Rhodes did not play well against Notre Dame. But boy, I loved his film going into that game. He's listed as a junior. I did have an eye on a safety for Boston College by the name of KP Price. He's leading the team in tackles. A good player, number 2. Look for him. And we were asked, is that part of this, Tim, about Hollywood Smothers, or was that just on our message board?
Yep, on the message board, I believe. Yep.
And
you can talk about him, though.
Well, yeah, he's really good. You and I kind of briefly talked about before the press conference that Marcus Freeman started today. As it relates to the running backs room, I'm going to throw it back over to you as it relates to the running backs room moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if running backs make business decisions and personal decisions, you could have a very sparse room next year. You'll have 2 freshmen. I can't imagine Nolan James isn't back on the team. But after that, everybody will have a decision to make. Aeneas Williams will have a decision to make. He's had decisions to make for a while here at Notre Dame, actually. Kedron Young is coming off an injury. That's the only reason he's more of a question mark. If he wasn't coming off an injury, I don't think Kedron Young would be a question mark right now. Jabron Payne will be a full graduate going to his 5th year, and I think they would try to help him find a landing spot if he wanted it too, to kind of showcase himself a little more. But I think running back will be a portal position this year.
Yeah, I think wide receiver, I believe very strongly. I would expect Notre Dame to be active in the portal at the wide receiver position. And here's one that was put to me last week. It's going to be remarkably hard for Notre Dame to keep Kenny Minchey. It would be naive, if not downright disingenuous, to ignore discussing that. And so if you lose Kenny Minchey and you've just got CJ Carr and Blake Hebert, do you bring in a lower level quarterback to have an experienced backup? I would not rule that out. I would absolutely
You lose Buckner. You lose Buckner. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would not rule that out for Notre Dame to try and go that route. So many FCS quarterbacks are playing a year and then moving up. Look at Ole Miss, what it's doing with Ferris State's former D2 quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. So there will be a lot of guys looking to move up. You're always in the market for defensive line, in my opinion. You're always in the market for a running back, the way things are going and what you're losing off of this team, wide receiver. And then I do believe Notre Dame will have a thorough evaluation at the quarterback position, because Kenny Minchey's too good. He's going to go start somewhere. It's just not going to be at Notre Dame.
The tough thing for quarterback situation for Notre Dame is, so you're probably bringing in a grad transfer or a freshman. Getting into the school is a difficult thing for the sophomores, the juniors, and the non-graduate seniors. I guess I should not say a grad transfer. You could be a senior that doesn't need a whole lot left, and you can finish up at your previous school. I mean, that's what Malachi Fields and Bo Collins had to do.
Yeah.
You could do that as a quarterback coming in, but it's hard to find. You really need the veteran. But I guess that's to your point, though. You want a veteran to come in and back up CJ Carr. You don't just need another quarterback to come in and back up CJ Carr.
It's not about a talent. It's about finding a guy in the portal that's played some real college football.
Right.
And you lose, Onye and Dawson and Rubio are in their final years of eligibility. JB, when do you think that 5th-year rule is going to pass?
I think it will pass in 2026 and be enacted for 2027.
Okay. So, they're unless some of these guys really, unless the Sevillanos and the Armel
Oh, D,
Mukum.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean guys like
DT is
that.
100% needed.
Yeah,
Definitely, defensive tackles definitely
yeah,
needed. That would be.
and way more than one.
Chris Burgess has probably grown into a defensive tackle, but once
It's
again, you need,
yeah. I mean, he's
yeah,
really Marcus Freeman's really spoken very highly of him
yeah,
twice now. He's also mentioned Reef as another guy. But again, are those guys ready to be
right.
major contributors
To a playoff
after
team, that's
to a
the point.
playoff team as
Yeah.
redshirt freshmen? Wow, that's a tough ask. So they're going to have to address that, no doubt.
Our next question comes from Two Live Shrews. It took O'Malley about a month to put an offensive lineman in his top 10 player list. That's true. I'm glad you're reading musings. It was Billy Schrauth. I didn't disagree, but I asked this instead of JB and Priester. Who else might make your list now by season's end? Because Schrauth and Craig, I assume you can't use Schrauth anymore. So Schrauth and Craig are out. Who can make that
Uh,
like top 10, 12 list?
yeah, I mean, I think I had Shrouth. I might have had Shrouth rated the highest of any of us in our
In
counting down the
summer?
Irish rankings in the summer. I had him. I was really, really bullish on Billy Shrouth, and it's so freaking unfortunate because I think, and I'm no offensive line expert or technician, but I thought he was playing the best ball of his career, and I thought
Yes. Yeah.
when we started noticing him so much more, and it's so easy to notice him making these giant kick out blocks on some of these touchdown runs, that's when, to the average layperson, you see what kind of work Billy Strouth was doing. Emil Wagner is, we kind of just take him for granted because he's just this athletic, nice player that doesn't necessarily wow you with him mauling guys, but he just is really technically sound and really light on his feet. Gerby Lambert could be there. Gerby Lambert, I think, is getting better every single week. He is a physical specimen. I think he's got good runway in that regard.
I think Gerby Lambert can definitely be there. I mean, Emil Wagner walls people off. He doesn't necessarily move them, put them in backpedal mode. But thank goodness, I'm going to knock on wood because that dude has stayed healthy now for.
Yeah.
They sat him down in the spring, which is the right
23
thing to do.
games. Yeah.
23 straight starts for him at right tackle. But I like Gerby Lambert to me impresses more and more every week, and whether it's moving somebody off the snap of the football or him moving and walling somebody off on the other side of the line of scrimmage, I think he could be there. Craig would have been there. Schrouth, it wasn't that long ago. Remember when I was saying, does Billy Schrouth? I didn't think that he was really making a significant difference or doing anything really demonstrative until the last two games, and clearly against USC, that was his best game. He was tremendous. Him nodding, working together. I think Anthony Knapp continues to be underrated. I don't know whether he makes it in the top 10, whatever. That's just a number. But
I think the top 10, I'm sorry, Tim, the top 10, 12 is everybody look at it and they're like, wow, you have no offensive linemen in your top
yeah,
12. I'm like, yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah. I mean, and then obviously Shrouth got into it. Um, it's, I would then say, well, I could put five between 14 and 20, but I didn't have anybody in the top 10. So it was kind of like pointed
right.
out,
I
but
don't I don't think you were inaccurate.
yeah, yeah. I don't
It's
think it was
just
too
the
far off then. It would be
the
now, but I mean, yeah.
To touch on Emil Wagner real quickly, and again, we're putting myself at the top of this conversation of taking what he's doing for granted. He's closing in on 1,500 snaps played, guys, since the
Wow.
beginning of the
Wow.
2024 season. Think about that. He closed out last year at almost right at 1,000, and he's closing in on 450 as they get ready for Boston College this week. So the guy's closing in on 1,500 snaps. That used to be an entire career.
Yeah. No, it's impressive. One a reason to kind of push him to the next level sooner maybe than you would like
Oh,
him to
yeah.
go to the next level. We'll find out about that a little bit later. Question from Irish 1981 with the season-long red zone struggles. Is it a crime against Notre Dame football that a tight end doesn't have a touchdown reception? Wonder if they even have an end zone target. You made a point in instant
Yeah,
analysis, Tim, that they wanted to target him against
they
USC,
did.
but it didn't come off. It was defended.
Yeah, and I think that there's a dearth of red zone targets for Eli Raridan for sure. I do think sometimes that happens because he's covered and you don't throw it to Eli Raridan. I mean, I am shocked he doesn't have a touchdown. I am shocked he doesn't have multiple touchdowns because once he started playing good football, you just figured that was also, even if Notre Dame was good in the red zone, I would be shocked that Eli Raridon didn't have a touchdown. It's just that seemed like, I feel like for years you're like, well, he could maybe become a red zone target this year. He's a freshman and sophomore, and now we're into this. I'm flabbergasted that he does not have a touchdown at this
Now
point. And
watch Cooper Flanagan will score the
he'll
first time touchdown.
he'll score next week, and Jack Larson will score at Boston College, and then they'll go from there. But no, I'm shocked. I know JB is super high on Reardon. It just seems it's a tad askew, JB.
It is very much askew. I'll give the good and the bad. The bad, as we know, is Notre Dame is 108th in the nation in red zone scoring proficiency. They've dipped below, I think, 78% now. The good news is they have 28 red zone scores, which is right around in the top 20 nationally. So they're getting into the red zone a lot. They're overall scoring a lot. They are not cashing those into touchdowns with near enough regularity. I think we've heard Notre Dame say in the past that they try to be a 90% touchdown team in the red zone, and then obviously they want to score 100% of the time in the red zone or be as close to 100% as possible. I'm very stunned by the Eli Raridon no touchdown. As good as he's been, and as much as we've seen him grow, though, the past 2024-25 seasons. Wasn't it USC before he caught his first touchdown last year? Like, wasn't it the USC game
Yeah.
before he caught a touchdown last year? So it's not completely stunning. Now, they had Mitch Evans a year ago, and that changed.
Yeah, it does change it a little bit. All right, he caught a touchdown against Pitt, but that's when that was still just coming back from injury Eli Raridon. Remember the
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah, long one from Steve Angeli. I
yeah.
think that was the first time everybody had Steve Angeli starting when he threw that touchdown in mop-up time. Next question is a two-parter. Rocket Mania 28. Maybe too early to ask, but with all the coaching changes and more to come, who is the most likely, or do you see any assistants ready to become a head coach? And SF Castillo adds to that, now that Ash is doing better, do you keep Mickens for one more year and a title run in 2026? How many times can Mike Mickens get the bump, JB?
Well, we've noted this
The
before,
price
but
bump.
yeah, we've noted this before, but I never mind noting it again when I feel like reporting has been nice. Mike Mickens is in the first year of a 3-year deal. That's new in
Yeah.
a lot of these parts for a passing game coordinator or what have you to have a 3-year deal. He and Juwan Sider both with 3-year deals. Coincidentally, Mike Martin, I'm told, also with the 3-year deal. But Mike Mickens with a 3-year deal, making 7 figures. Notre Dame right now, the 10 games that we know has a pretty appealing 2026 schedule. So certainly you hope to keep Mike Mickens around. Al Washington was a finalist for that Boston College job a year ago. There's been some growing whispers in recent weeks that things are going so poorly at Boston College. Does Bill O'Brien just say, to heck with this? I'm going back to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I'm not saying that's about to happen. I'm telling you that's what coaches are asking. That's what people in the industry are wondering aloud. So, and Gino Gaduli, or honestly, a Mike Denbrock. I mentioned Mike Denbrock, Gino Gaduli, and Mike Mickens for this reason. Scott Satterfield is doing the best coaching job of his life this year at Cincinnati. He had maybe an 11-1 season also at App State, so I shouldn't say the best of his life, but this is the best of his life at a major program, now a power conference program. There's very strong belief that Scott Satterfield will get some ACC looks this year. If Cincinnati comes open, to me, that's when, if you're Notre Dame, you get a little nervous about maybe losing one of those guys to the head coaching post at Cincinnati. Mike Mickens obviously just got inducted into the Cincinnati Hall of Fame. He's beloved there. Mike Denbrock did some nice things there. Obviously, Gino Gaduli. And again, then Al Washington, if Boston College, if Bill O'Brien hit the reset button.
I don't really, and this is not, I'm not disparaging them, but I don't really know that those are head coaching candidates on Notre Dame's coaching staff. I don't think Al Washington would have been up for, I mean, BC's his alma mater, so I don't think that he would, be up for anything. Mike Mickens still hasn't been a full solo coordinator yet. I'm not sure that Mike Denbrock is heavily pursuing a head coaching position. I don't know. I just don't. I don't think any of those guys leave for anything like that. Um, Chris Ash had a one-time deal. He hasn't been in the college game. Had a one-time deal, tough deal at Rutgers. So yeah, I don't know.
Chris Ash wins. If Notre Dame's defense continues to play like this through January, then Chris Ash becomes talked about again, right?
I think
Yeah,
he'd more
and
likely be an NFL defensive coordinator than a head coaching candidate.
maybe. There were people who told me 2 years ago they believed very strongly that Jared Parker might be a better head coach than offensive
I,
coordinator. And Jared Parker is doing a fabulous job this year with Troy and winning at a very nice level and has the Trojans bowl eligible and then conference championship contention. So I think you could project that to some of those coaches we've just discussed on the Notre Dame staff, be it an Al Washington. We know we've all visited with Al Washington. I love listening to Al Washington talk. I've told him before he sounds a little bit like a revival preacher. He's got a real infectious way about him, and I think he's kind of a natural leader of men. So I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not sitting here saying that if I was casting the Vegas odds on one of those guys leaving and becoming a head coach, I would probably bet the under. But I do think that those are the first wave of candidates, and right behind that is Max Bulla. People that know ball a
Yeah.
lot more than me are convinced that Max Bulla is a future defensive coordinator and a future head coach.
I was surprised that Satterfield. I was really impressed with what I saw from Satterfield when he first got to Louisville. I was surprised that that didn't work out. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's showing it again.
Yeah, they've got a big one this week out in Utah.
Right.
That will show. I'm telling you, Scott Satterfield is trending for some of these jobs. If they go win at Utah, he's going to zoom up some boards and have a lot of choices. And I bring up the ACC because Carolina is home to him, and I don't think it's been any secret. He almost left Louisville to take the South Carolina job a few years ago. That tugged at his heartstrings. So if some of those Carolina jobs reopen this year, I really watch Scott Satterfield there.
Next question is also a two-parter, and it has different viewpoints on Jeremiah Love. Given ND's upcoming opponents down the stretch, do you see them rotating more than the two backs into upcoming games to lighten the load? But the Irish car bomb wonders, will ND try and get Love some additional stats to get this Heisman hype going? I know Marcus preaches team glory, but a J Love Heisman campaign would be great for the program, and I don't disagree with that,
Well,
actually.
how many more touches you want Jay Love to get?
I think maybe just keep doing it is what he's saying. Like you're still getting 18 as opposed to Aeneas Williams and Nolan James coming in when you're beating teams. Like would another 200-yard game on national TV against Navy for Jeremiah Love bump him even higher?
I want a healthy Jay Love for December and January.
I
I think
agree with
that's
that.
I think that's way more important. He is getting way more touches than he did last year. It'd be great to have a Heisman Trophy winner, but I do think that team glory is way more important here. And then as far as more touches for the other guys, that's up to Jaywan Sider. I'm sure Marcus Freeman a little bit as well as they move into a portion of their schedule where they could probably freely play some other running backs. But Jay Love had 24 carries last week, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't think he's saying more like 34. I just think see if Jeremiah Love can get 200 yards rushing a couple games in a row and see what happens.
Yeah,
There are things more important than that.
I agree. I agree.
sure. But he is second nationally
Yeah, he's in it.
touchdowns and with 12. And I would note he's got a little more runway than some of the people he's keeping company with because he's only played 7 games, and a couple of those guys who have 12 or 15 touchdowns around him have already played their 8th game. So there is runway for Jeremiah Love. A lot of people thought that this past weekend might be Ty Simpson's signature game on the road at South Carolina, where he would stamp himself fully atop the Heisman board. Ty didn't play poorly. Alabama got a hard-fought win, but Ty was not sensational. So I do think that the Heisman Trophy is out there for the taking right now, and he's going to get some opportunities. A 3:30 game on ESPN doesn't hurt. Navy winning a bunch of ball games and potentially being a ranked opponent for that contest certainly doesn't hurt you. So you're going to have You guys know I call them opportunity contests. You're going to have some opportunity contests for Jeremiah Love here down the stretch, and I would expect as long as Navy handles business, it will be ranked for the Notre Dame game the following week because they're 26th in votes received right now in the AP poll. So they're knocking at the door. Somebody will lose and somebody will get knocked out, and Navy will have a great chance to climb in there as a ranked opponent to further burnish Jeremiah Love's resume.
I was looking to see what their point spread was, and I've forgotten on North Texas. North Texas only has one loss, right?
Yeah, North
Texas, yeah.
Texas was undefeated, lost to South Florida at home, but obviously just had the guy set an NCAA record, Drew Mestamaker, over the weekend with more than 600 passing yards. The guy that never threw a pass in high school, by the way.
Wow. He's a quick he's a quick
That's
study.
Google it.
outstanding.
Google it. He's a
Never
Texas high school product, and he was
Google him. It's just like
never the
Signetti.
start.
Google
Yeah,
him.
Google him. He throws passes.
Question number 7 from Irish from A2. Halfway through the season, how would you grade each of the transfers? And he notes the transfers are. I'll go one at a time, guys. Starting with kicker Noah Burnett.
Incomplete.
Yeah, I would probably say a C just because he hasn't been healthy. So the incomplete
Yeah.
is fair. A B minus to a C. He hasn't missed a kick that you've had to make. He made a couple of kicks. We talked about we needed to see them making a kick when it was going to matter. So we have seen now, I think, a 48-yard field goal made
Yeah.
by him.
He's five
Yeah.
of six. He's 5 of 6. He just missed a
He's
PAT
yeah.
and a field goal in the same game, so it looked terrible. That was the problem.
Yeah. When he's been healthy, he's been really good. But he hasn't been healthy. And so, whatever. I think incomplete is the best way to put that. Defensive tackle Jared Dawson.
Since he's trending up, I'm getting JB's going to do the letter grades like people do at your fancy schools, but I like to. He's been trending up. I thought Jared Dawson might be a little more impactful in September. I give him a higher grade in October.
Well, with your clock management, like, we're not going to let you
Well,
grade on the clock
you
scale.
got pass fail? Is that what
I
you
like,
got?
no, yeah, I was thinking like pass, fail, impress. If everybody moves on to the next level type thing. No, I like Dawson's trending up. I'm bullish on Dawson.
Yeah, I would agree. I like Dawson. I like that he's trending up.
But as of now, C plus
Yeah, I think
because
that's
he's
fair.
trending up.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Then wide receiver Malachi Fields.
A plus.
He blocks so well. I'll go A minus because they tend to passing game stalls a little bit when they throw it to him because the targets are way more
Yeah.
than the catches.
I did a piece a week ago today about the targets. He's a boundary receiver, so stuff to him is usually a little bit further downfield. The passes that are thrown to Jordan Faison are a little bit easier to complete. But he's been good. Is he third on the team in receptions behind Faison and Raritan, or he's right there?
Be right
Yeah.
there.
Something
Yeah, sorry, TP.
something in the B's. I mean, he's
Yeah,
good.
He blocks so well that I could
does
see him
block.
A minus. Yeah.
It is
I'm firm on the A to A plus for him because I don't think you can measure him strictly in stats. And he's made big catches when he's been called upon. Even though he had the early fumble in Miami, he made that sensational catch on a 50-50 ball. He's made some other great catches. And we just heard Marcus Freeman today talk about how selfless he is in blocking. And then he said, we'll tell him, Malachi, you can take this play off. And he's like, no, I'm going out there on kickoff return.
Yeah, he's
So,
on kick return too.
that's good stuff. That's all really good
You
stuff.
know, I will say whether these numbers are exactly right or not. He's 4 for 11 on contested catches. I would have thought it'd be better than that. Going into the season, I just thought Malachi Fields would go up and take the ball from people.
I
more
think
often than he did.
I think that was a fair expectation, but man, it is a beautiful thing. Like, why are the running backs so great? Because
Yes.
A, the running backs are great. B, the offensive line is playing much better, and C, Fields, Pauling, and Faison blocking downfield is a thing of beauty. They've been incredible.
Elijah Hughes is next.
Yep.
Trending well. He's my
Trending
Jared
up.
Dawson. Yeah, he is just a little bit better than I thought he would be because I didn't think he'd get quite as many snaps as he's gotten in October.
trending up.
Yeah, I like Hughes. I like him as a trending up. I like him as a solid B, and I love the fact that you bring him back next year. So
Oh yeah,
I
that makes it
probably
higher.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was getting ready to say I probably grade him on a curve because you get to bring him back next year and have a real key piece there along your defensive interior alongside of your captain Heinisch.
Will Pauling,
I
Probably a
mean,
B plus.
easily a
that's
B
where I have
plus.
him.
The way he blocks too, yeah. He's see, I thought Fields would be better than Fields is, even though Fields is really good, and I think Pauling's better than I thought Pauling would be. So
I
that's
think
why I kind of go a little. That's where the curve and grades come in on this one.
I think you need to. I watched a lot of film of him at Wisconsin, and the first thing that struck me is, man, he's not a guy that breaks a lot of tackles. He's not going to have a lot of yards after the catch. But then you see him play on a weekly basis, particularly after kind of a slow start as far as how much they utilized him in the offense, and you can certainly see. And then all the leadership stuff that Marcus Freeman talks about with him. Too bad they don't have another year with him too, because it'd be great to have him around.
Devonta Smith, lower.
I mean, totally incomplete.
Yeah,
I
completely
mean, really,
incomplete.
really, really incomplete. And I
Yeah.
think Jalen Stroman,
Lower. He's worse than I thought Strong would be better.
yeah, but he's made some plays. He had the blitz the other. Which game was that? Was that NC State or USC? It's blending together now. See, I was on. It was an off week for me last week, man.
I know it's getting you.
Everything's foggy.
He had I mean, he had a full DNP against USC. It was NC State. He didn't play against the Trojans.
He didn't play at all.
Not on defense.
Oh, man,
That's why I got to rate him lower. I think if you're not getting your guy now, Luke Talich has had a better year than Jalen Stroman.
wow, yeah, Luke Tellis with 3 interceptions.
He just
Man,
finds the ball, man.
he's
Ball
a
finds him.
magnet. He's a magnet downfield late in the game.
Final one, Washington, Ty Washington. I thought he'd be better blocking.
I really liked him against USC. I thought he was assertive and aggressive. We know he's had the lingering wrist injury. He hasn't emerged as a secondary target in the throw game at that tight end position. Um, B minus C because I think it's hard to grade when we don't know exactly what's being asked of him and we don't know how much greater capacity for his role there is. I know these guys have to earn it on the practice field and they have to make the coaches play them or not play them, but this is a much more diverse Notre Dame offense than what we've seen in recent years.
Next question. I'm going to lead off with Tim Priester on this one. What, if anything, CMU Pens fan asks, does Boston College present on D that could slow down the Irish? You tell them what you told me.
And I say this with respect. I do.
Yes.
The best thing they do on defense is they play hard. The defensive line plays hard. They can't get sacks.
But
They have 13 in 8 games. They can't get sacks, but they do really play hard. I love the way some of the defensive linemen, Sedarius McConnell and Quintavious Hutchins, those guys play really, really hard. In fact, McConnell, who's a defensive tackle, if we're talking about transfer tackles, not that he'd necessarily be a starter, not that he'd necessarily be a starter for Notre Dame, but that would be a guy that I might throw on the list. Just as I look at the teams that Notre Dame has played, I love KP Price, their safety number 2. You're going to see him all over the place. He's a safety, but he definitely comes up and plays in the box, plays like a linebacker, very, very physical. But man, they don't make a lot of plays. And then when you look at their rankings, I mean, they're 126 in scoring defense. They're in the hundreds in yards rushing per game, yards per rush, 4.66 against their defense. They've given up 16 rushing touchdowns. That's 113th. I mean, virtually every category defensively, nationally, they're in the hundreds. So playing hard that's their trump card. That's the best thing that they do.
Yeah, and their defensive coordinator, Tim Lewis, has a predominantly professional background, and I think the adjustment to the college game has been a real struggle for him. So, you might, with that backdrop, you might think, oh, they might throw some exotic stuff at CJ Carr. that could confuse him. But honestly, the Boston College defense seems to confuse itself.
They are 119th, second to last among Power Four programs in defense per FEI numbers and metrics in all
They're
weeks.
I have about 12 statistical categories that I focus on with every opponent, and of those 12, their best ranking is on third down defense, and they're 77th in the country.
Yeah, that's not great.
They're just not very good.
I'd like to add to that Boston College preview that Navy is a 5.5 point underdog to North Texas on
Okay.
Saturday. So
Must be at North
getting the
Texas.
job done
Yeah,
will not
the
be
game
an easy
is. Yeah.
situation. Over under 64.5 if people want to jump on the over. It's all fun and games till that helmet hits you in the back of the knee, Tim Priester. Then it's not that easy to play against it. Last question from the ties that bind. Actually, it just says the ties that, so I'm assuming it was bind. Will Notre Dame destroy its next five opponents? If not, why? And more important, will they win by double digits against all five so at least it doesn't look bad? That's a good point about the double digit thing when they're playing
I saw
BC and Stanford. You're just like, what they win by? 14. Okay, that's fine.
somebody
Like,
tweet out the double digit number that I thought of the other like a couple of weeks ago. I thought I want to look that up, and like 30 out of how many wins does Marcus Freeman have? 37. Like 30 out of 37 are by double digits. Somebody else found that to be an interesting stat as well. But I don't. I think, man, Pittsburgh's really starting to play well. Mason Heinzel. Have you guys seen him? I mean, he is a
yeah.
gamer, man. He's a big time gamer. He buys space for himself to throw. He's been sacked a ton. He was sacked 14 times in the first three games that he started, so he probably runs himself into stuff. But he's dangerous. I think he's probably going to meet his match against Notre Dame, but he's dangerous. So I like what he's doing. I'm uncomfortable watching Notre Dame play Navy every year. And I know Notre Dame, Navy was undefeated last year when they played Notre Dame. They may or may not be this time. But the ball control offense it makes you feel, you got that feeling in the pit of your stomach because you're thinking about, okay, got to get the ball back. And when you get the ball back, you've got to score a touchdown. I still think Notre Dame is superior to them, but all those skill position people are back for Navy. And they're not going to keep throwing the ball on the ground like they did last year.
Yeah, and Heisel is not turning the ball over. Is a big thing for him, and he was not even expected to play last week. He was questionable to doubtful late in the week for the Pitt Panthers, and then he rolls out there and throws for 420 yards and 3 touchdowns as they just compound the misery for Dave Doran this year. So I do think Notre Dame wins all of its remaining games by double digits, though. I just think that the Irish are superior. I think that with each passing week, Notre Dame's going to see more and more that's out there in front of it. We know that a week from tomorrow is the debut of the 2025 CFP rankings next Tuesday night. That will be the first time they're revealed. So I think Notre Dame is just better than everyone left on its roster. I know that Stanford has shown some stuff and played some teams well. But I think that Notre Dame comes out of this bye week and jump starts an important in November with a big win starting Saturday at Boston College.
I think they win every game by double digits. I think one of them is definitely not a blowout feeling of the other ones are. Does that kind of make
Yeah.
sense where you're
I
looking at
assume
it, you're
for
like,
you it's Navy or Pittsburgh because
It's
Yeah, it
one of
could be a
those
30,
two.
yeah, it
Yeah.
could be a 34-21 against
Right.
Pittsburgh, something
Yeah.
like that,
Or
I,
yeah.
41-24.
Yeah, you could get 41, you could get 37-24 against Navy because Navy just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming, even though Notre Dame has control of the game with Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
If you want to bet the over, by the way, FEI offensive rankings, we have Pittsburgh is 61, Notre Dame is eighth, North Texas 24, and Navy 30. There you go. North Texas and Navy, both in the top 30 in FEI offense.
I stand by the notion that Boston College and Syracuse and Stanford can't beat Notre Dame, but Stanford is a better coached football team now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They have 4 wins, which is more than they've had in any of the 3 previous seasons. They're playing better football. I like Michael Ford, but sometimes they can't run it. They're under 3 yards per carry. Syracuse doesn't have enough defense to outscore Notre Dame, and then BC's lost
No
7 in
way.
a row. Maybe Notre Dame will energize them coming to town, but I don't think those 3 teams can beat Notre Dame, and the other 2
I
probably are
think
probably are double digits.
I think Notre Dame could beat those three by a combined 85 to 90 points. Stanford, Syracuse, and Boston College. They score at Stanford. I know they're a little better now. They score at Stanford in bunches when they go out there, Notre Dame. And senior day, they are going to go buck wild on Syracuse's defense on senior day. That what is it, 287 to 45 the last 7 years on senior day? They destroy people on senior day. It's like there was 55 nothing, 44 nothing, 51-7. It's they kill people. I agree that but what you guys are both saying, Pitt or Navy, something in there is going to be. It'd be nice if Navy's undefeated to keep Notre Dame's full attention
Well,
on a
and
night game at Notre
and
Dame Stadium.
If Syracuse had Angeli, yeah, they would be in a position to score. But Ricky Collins is bad. There was a reason. It was like
I didn't know a word you were going to say. That was good.
Angeli's going to Syracuse. Well, they just signed Ricky Collins. Now we know why they signed Steve Angeli.
He knew what he was doing, man.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's good. That is it for this edition of Irish Illustrated Insider. We'll be back Thursday with another little bit more of a dive into Boston College, some predictions for Chestnut Hill and the college football weekend as a whole. Marcus Freeman's Thursday press conference update, of course, but no injury updates after that. Remember, just the injury update has happened right now, and we'll hit you next time with whatever we can find out before Boston College in terms of, I say, Greathouse and Devonta Smith are the guys to watch to see if they play. And hopefully you'll have to wait for more coaching firings until at least 2 weeks from now. We can discuss that as well. For John Bryce of Football Scoop, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thanks for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.